And Kevin said he lives on Napper Street. And I just happened to be driving. And I'm looking for Napper Street. And I am like, Knapper, I mean, Napper, I mean, like, and then it hit me right as we came up on what I would have called Napier Street. I went, I've heard them say Napper. And so I was like, yep, all right. So I turned. But what was that?
Napper was a $10 building.
Well,
I say that because my related, Johnny related.
Okay. Well, I was saying that because we went out to their house, and they kind of live out in the holler, and you cross over a creek to get out to their house, and they live on the hill, but you have to go down over this creek, you know, and I said, well, you know, when they say Lord willing and the creek don't rise, that is talking about you guys. The creek once. Yep, that's right.
You gotta go through multiple times. Then you know you're.
Here's a Crum alumni over here, you know. Yep. What was that? Oh man. All right. City Slicker. I tell you. You know, it's a different beast, you know, being in West Virginia. It really is, because
From Wayne County to Buchanan.
yeah.
Upshur County.
Yeah.
What part of the South are you from? Yeah. Wayne County. Really? Where's that at?
Yeah. Oh man.
If they all hang for.
Hey, I see about the time people saying behind the team. Where's that
All right, I'm trying to find my lesson here, and then we'll get going. Okay. All right. So we, before we get started, I've asked Brother Dixon to lead us in prayer, and then we'll jump in and look at the questions on that paper.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings of another day, and for the blessing of allowing us to be here to study your word. We thank you, Father, for each class and for time here that we can work the word of life. We pray for the sick and those who have asked for our prayers, those in the hospitals and our shut-ins, all who need our prayers, Father. We pray that your blessing will be upon them. Go with us through the rest of the class. Forgive us. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
All right. All right. So we got the lesson 3 questions. The first home was the Garden of Eden. And for what purpose did God place Adam and Eve in the garden? What was that purpose? To dress it and keep it. Yeah. That's right, yeah. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because people like to think that there wasn't any work going on. But there was work, it just wasn't as hard. That's the thing. Yeah. Yeah, that you got 10 to it, yep. Number 3, of the trees placed in the garden, 2 are mentioned specifically. They are the what? Tree of life and knowledge of good and evil. The only restriction placed upon man was that he what? Yep. Don't eat of the fruit of the knowledge of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Yeah. Now I think there's even a reference that we could apply to that, where talking about wine, it said don't even look at it when it's swirling in the glass. You know, don't even look at it.
What would happen if you ate the tree of life?
I'm assuming that was fair game. I don't know. I don't know that we know of anything. But obviously, when they eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, there is a reference there as far as living out their days. I don't know. But there's no restriction given on that tree, as far as I can see. Anything? Anybody have any? What was that? Yeah, I don't know. Yep. Yeah, the only tree mentioned in heaven. Anybody else have any thought? I mean, you know me. If I don't know it, I'm just gonna say I don't know. Because I'd rather just be safe and say I don't know instead of getting myself in trouble. So,
I think it mentions, could be wrong, but it mentions somewhere in there where God tells them, you got to get them out of there.
Right.
That's the easy tree of life, and it's forever. Like that.
Yeah, that was the reference I was making, and I'm not sure. Like I have in the past said, and I'm not exactly comfortable with this because I don't know all the ins and outs, because there's no restriction on the tree of life. But then, like you said, it sounds like once they've eaten of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, if they go back and eat that tree of life, then you live eternally. They're just yeah. So I don't know, I have in the past said, well, maybe they just didn't eat of that tree as of yet and didn't realize that its importance or anything. And then they ate of the other tree, and then they could have easily gone back and understood the importance of that. That may be a possibility. Another possibility I can think of just off the top of my head, and there's another thought process I've had on this, is that maybe once they ate of that tree, then it kicked in the potency of the other tree. I don't know. Right. And are we going to have every answer to everything? Sure, these are fun conversations. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I always loved it whenever I would get into a class like this, and we start talking about Adam and Eve, and someone go, well, did Adam and Eve have belly buttons? And at first I just laughed that one off. And then I had that one so many times, I just started answering it, and I just say, I guess not. And they're like, well, how do you know? Because they're human beings. I'm like, well, how in the world do you get one? You have to have an umbilical cord, And I was like, they were not born that way. But if God wanted them to look like everybody else, then sure, But, man, I don't know.
Because that's what her children have been attached to. She's carrying.
Yeah. Something. Who knows? It's the belly button that causes the pain, right? That's what it is. It was after. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Genesis 3:22, and the Lord said, and the Lord God said, behold, the man is become as one of us, to know good and evil. Now, lest he put forth his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. 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 I don't know. Yeah. I remember this coming up, and I remember we talked a little bit about this once before, and I know there's a lot of preachers out there that'd be like, well, I'm going to tell you the answer here. I'm not that guy. I'm not. I think that's a fool's bargain right there. Don't even try to trade off, look like you're smart for a second. I'd rather, but obviously something is going on. I don't know. Like I said, maybe they just didn't eat of that tree going into it. Like it just, maybe it was a terrible looking fruit, and then they realize, hey, there's a benefit here.
Possibly been eaten up until that point that they ate of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
At that point,
Yeah.
they could have eaten it.
Yeah. Yeah. I see two sides of that. I think that it's possible that they ate of it, and that only after eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil does the effect take place on the tree of life. I think that's a possibility. I think also a possibility of they just didn't eat it. And of course, too, we got to think about this. How long of a period of time has gone by? Because we don't really know that, but it doesn't seem like it's been too long. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Waldo. But it doesn't seem like it's been too long, since things got started that they actually do this. So they may just simply have not had enough time because they get tempted right from the get-go. So if you want to ask my opinion, if that's what you're wanting to know right now, I think I probably am siding more with the first one than anything, of saying that what we just said, like they just didn't have time, they didn't eat of it, they just didn't know. That's probably about the safest route I think I'd go on that. It seems like they hadn't eaten of it, yeah.
God placed them in a perfect environment.
Yeah.
They were perfection in flesh.
Right.
Until they partook of it.
Right. Yeah. They brought in sin and death, as we see in Romans 5. Yeah. Yep. Interesting stuff. Yeah. I've got opinions, but that's all I got is opinions, which doesn't do you any good. So that and about $3 now get you a cup of coffee at McDonald's or something. But yeah, I tell you, that's all I can ever say about that. Anybody have any other comments before we move on to the next thing here? Number 5, the devil used 3 avenues of temptation with Eve. What was that? Lust of the flesh. Yeah. Lust of the eyes, and the vainglory of life, pride of life. Yeah. I think I actually went back and was looking at that, and you really see that kind of spelled out when you think about it in those regards, because she looks at the fruit and sees that it's good for food. Then she looks at it and is thinking, oh, this is looks it's not only good for food, but it'll make one wise, vainglory of life, and so you see it all played out just right there. Pretty interesting. Moving on. Discuss the consequences of Adam and Eve's sin. And the answer is pretty much given here in the passage, but how do we sum that up? Yeah, they're driven out of the garden. Pain and childbirth. That's like the number one thing you're mentioned. Hey, now you're going to have pain and childbirth.
Work harder for their food. You got to kill the earth.
Yeah, you got to work harder on it. See, that I think really sums up in those two things right there. Yeah, they're driven out of the garden, so that's a part of it. That's not something I mentioned in there, but those two things, the childbearing and the working harder kind of a thing, I think those are the two main things I focus on anyway. Yeah, death. Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's a lot of things to mention right here. Going back to these one by one, you think about, they had that perfect home, and now they don't have a perfect home. Now they've got to leave that. Yeah, they don't. Yeah, they got to go. They got to go do something different now. And then you think about this. So there evidently, up to this point, there would have been no pain in having children. Yeah, yeah. Ruth's like, that would be great. Man, that would have been awesome. You know. Yeah, yeah. You're like this ain't so bad. I'll do this again. Yeah. That one always, when Autumn was in labor, you know, she was in so much pain. And then the baby comes and she's happy. And then she's sore for a little bit and then she gets over that. And then, you know, months down the road, you know, baby's growing up, maybe a year or two. And then she's like, man, I wish I had another baby. And I'm like, don't you remember how terrible that was? You know? But you forget. But, yeah.
Shelter from the elements. How did Adam know what to do to protect Eve from the elements?
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, part of that, there's obviously some sort of change that had to have happened, whether it's just change in going somewhere else or, you know, something, because they had everything right there in the garden. All of a sudden it's gone. So either walking out of that place, you know, the weather is going to be different, you know. But yeah, but you got to remember too, Adam is exceptionally intelligent, you know.
And he had all the help in the world.
Right.
He could talk to God.
Yep.
He was a patriarch.
Yep. Yeah, lots of. So we mentioned the childbearing, then and the going out of the garden, and then, you know, think about having to work hard, you know, for something. You know, how many people in here have lots of experience with gardening, like producing, you know, like plants that actually produce stuff? Yeah, I look up to you guys. You know, there are some things that are easy to grow, and there are some things that are like, what in the world have I done wrong with this thing? You know, I can't even, you know, we've got a blueberry bush that we planted 2 years ago, and we're like, yeah, but you know what? We can't get a single one to grow. So, but, you know, you got to think that what we have to do now with, you know, tilling the ground and getting it all that, you know, this was just not a thing before, you know. However, that worked out, you know, but evidently things were just kind of taking care of themselves, and they, you know, got their own food and stuff. It was a little bit more sustainable. Of course, also you got to think about the aspect of the thorns and thistles coming into play now. You know, another thing is, you know, about this time every year I go into my backyard and I try to clear it out, because when I got to our house in Ashland, literally 10 feet tall, just I don't know, brush everywhere, just everywhere. And remember that ice storm happened? I went out there and I started cutting that stuff down. I was like, I got some help, you know, this ice is out here. So I took a machete and I went out there and I started cutting all that stuff down. I cleared some out. I didn't clear it all out. And then I've cleared more out, and now it's time to clear more out. But, you know, evidently that was not really much of an issue whenever they were in the garden. So I guess moving on, number 7, discuss what future event is indicated by Genesis 3:15. I've got a side question for this one for you. What future event is talked about in Genesis 3:15? Yeah, Christ defeating Satan. I want to ask this question because it was a while before I found the answer to this, and I don't know if I had stopped listening at the right points and I just never heard this the right way. But how do we know that is talking about Jesus? How do we know that that's talking about Jesus? You might want to turn there and look at it. Genesis 3 and verse 15. How do we know that is talking about Jesus?
Blessed
What is that? Yeah, thy seed and her seed. We're on the right track. Now, what does that mean?
Seed is in singular.
Well,
Abraham's seed coming through all the way up through Christ.
yeah. Could make a point there. Also, I will say this. This is a singular occurrence. When you look at any time, okay, let me ask you, when you see the genealogies, who do the genealogies go through? Is it the mother or the father? The father. And when you look at Genesis 3 and verse 15, whose seed is it? It's her seed. It's the seed of woman, not the seed of man. And so that's how we know, because, Jesus was born, but he was conceived by the Holy Spirit without a human father. And so he is the seed of woman. This is kind of the same thought process that happens in Macbeth. Do y'all remember Macbeth? Did y'all ever have to read Macbeth? Yeah, there was a prophecy for Macbeth, and he was going to be killed by someone that was not born of a woman. You remember that? And so the prophecy was he was not born of a woman, so she had a C-section. And the person that, the man she produced from that C-section, he's the one who killed, Macbeth. That's the kind of the same thought process. Sounds like a loophole, right? But that's what it is. When you look at it, there is no other reference like this. Only about Jesus you see Jesus being referenced like this. And of course, you go down to the end, and he's defeating death. He's defeating Satan. He's defeating all of that. You're seeing that happen proverbially. All right, anybody have any questions before we move on? Probably need to start huffing it through here. Cain, Abel, and Seth were Adam and Eve's only children. True or false? False. They had other sons and daughters. Who was the first murderer? Cain. Cain was the first murderer. We talked about this a little bit. This next one. Abel's sacrifice to God was acceptable and Cain's was not, is attributed to the fact that Abel's sacrifice was offered by what? Faith. And so Hebrews 11:4, you see that he offers his sacrifice by faith. Romans 10:17. So then faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Who walked with God? Enoch. And the oldest man, Methuselah, and he lived to be 969 years old. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sure you're aware of it, but maybe not everybody else is. On Methuselah, do a kind of timeline kind of thing. It appears that he died in the flood, either a year of the flood. So we don't know if he died in the flood or prior to the flood.
Right. Yeah. And I've had people ask me that question because, you bring that up and they go, well, when did he die? And it's not like it's necessary, but I would assume it would have been before because he's being mentioned. If he was a wicked person, then who cares if he dies in the flood? What about all the other, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that died in the flood? None of them are mentioned, That's just an opinion. Again, that's just my opinion.
The only thing that says about him is you get sons and daughters.
Yep. Yeah.
You don't know anything else about him.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you don't really know anything else. What was that? Yeah. Yeah, probably so. He probably knew Noah, yeah.
We brought it up, I think, in your because after the flood, Methuselah-like ages don't occur.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, they just start going down gradually. Yeah. Did you have something to say?
And in our information that we got, it said he also lived during Adam's time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's close to the beginning.
Yeah. See, that's just crazy to me thinking about that. Because, like, I like history, but, you think, well, just think about this, like, it's still less than 300 years. But 300 years, and you're looking at this. Oh, man.
The guy lived a millennium. If you think about that.
Yeah, almost 1,000 years, almost, yeah.
Who would want to live 1,000 years?
Yeah.
The willpower, What environmental conditions were present at the time that would allow you to live that?
Yeah. Well, I think when you look at what's going on in Genesis chapter 6, all that, well, we just mentioned it, or no, we're about to mention it. And I'll just go ahead and give it. The wickedness of man was great, and every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. That's enough for a man to go, I'm done,
Well, think about the sin living here now.
Yeah. Well, it's bad. I don't know. Like, people ask me that from time to time. They'll go, well, don't you think that this is as bad as Rome? Not from what I've studied. It's getting there. Don't get me wrong. It's getting there. But yeah, I think the cycle is coming to fruition here.
You want to see some really study Roman history.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Study life in the city.
Oh yeah. Oh, it was an awful place. It was brutal. It was brutally violent. It was so over-sexualized, and like everything was sexualized. Yeah.
I take comfort, and I hate to use that word, but when people talk about what's going on, I always say, read your Bible. It's not as bad. When people say, Jeff was telling about, someone who was taking a polygraph and, had to admit that he had sexual relations with an animal. They're in shock. Well, that happened in the Old Testament. That's not a new law. It's always been.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing new under the sun.
When you think of what it says, their hearts continually evil. And then you see that Noah preached 100 years.
And no repentance. Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
You can sit on the street corner now, you can get a crowd 30
Yeah.
minutes. But
yeah.
He preached for 100 years, you couldn't get anybody.
Yeah.
Basically preaching the truth.
So the hearts have to be cold.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, there's a lot of things here to mention. I will have to say that I've never looked this up until the other day. But I jokingly told the kids, I know why Methuselah lived so long. And it's because his name means man of the spear and man of the dart. And I thought, hey, you know what? If you've got the name man of the spear, maybe nobody messes with you for 969 years, So interesting stuff. I guess we need to move on here. Noah found what? Grace in the eyes of the Lord. Noah's instructed by God to build the... And true or false, Noah is at liberty to use materials of his choosing. That's false. This is one of the... I was talking to a preacher the other day, and he was asking, he was telling me, I've run into these things so often, and I was like, I haven't run into that. And he goes, well, what have you run into more often? And I said, well, I think I deal with probably just liberalism more often than not, like people just not understanding something, and so... they go a different way, and then when you tell them, it's like you got to fight it for a little bit before people start understanding. But I was talking about this in particular, and I said, I have probably had one conversation more than I've had any other conversation. I know I've had this conversation here with brethren here. Not, and this is not a, well, I'm putting you down kind of thing. I think that this is just important to say. That's why I said it. Not that necessarily you needed it, but I say this a lot with people who are on the verge of becoming Christians. I say this a lot. And I have this conversation where I ask people, is God concerned about the details? And I know I say it from the pulpit sometimes, but do you think God is concerned about the details? Yeah, absolutely. Most of the time when I'm talking to somebody and they're not a part of the body of Christ, and I've had this on multiple occasions with people. And remember this, actually use this, okay? Use this when you're talking to somebody that says something similar to that. We're like, God doesn't care what we do or anything. Well, okay, so you're saying God is not concerned about the details. Okay, well, let's ask some questions here. And I usually take people over to Leviticus and start looking at the building of the tabernacle. And, you're going to have all these rings. The rings are going to be made like this. They're going to be spaced out this far. And then you're going to have these people that are able to, the workers of the blue, and they're going to come in. They're going to make this look this way. And when you build the ark, you're going to do this, and you're going to, make it just like this. And there's all these details. Then you come down to it and go, okay, yeah, God's concerned about the details there. Well, what if, some people ask, well, what is gopher wood? I don't know what that is. I don't know. Maybe it no longer exists. I don't know. But whatever it was, and I don't really care what it was. But what if Noah goes, I know that God said to make it out of gopher wood, but I'm going to make it out of pine. I'm going to make it out of cedar. They come up with some other type of wood, any type of wood you want to put in there. And what would have happened? It wouldn't have worked. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, is God concerned about the details? Yes. Yes, He is. Right. Yep, that is a detail. Yep. Right. Yeah. Right.
I always thought God gave Noah the IKEA project of his day.
Yeah.
Except for the fact that the materials weren't bought. Noah had to go and find.
Yeah.
Exactly. Basically, he stole lots of it now.
Yeah.
But you get the jury.
We are not getting to our class tonight. Yeah.
First Chronicles, first chapter. Read verse 4 verses if you don't mind.
The genealogy here, the first four. Yeah, Adam, Seth, Enoch, or Enosh here, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I think that, like I said, I think that probably was, a righteous man, I don't know that for certain, but I would think so. Yeah. You have 969 years of knowledge, that's for sure. You can hook someone up. Number 17, God gave Noah the measurements of the ark. That was 300 cubits in length. Yeah, 50 cubits in breadth. And then 30 cubits in height. And there were 8 people on the ark. Matter of fact, I wish I could draw this, but I can't. Do you know what the Chinese character for a big boat is? Have you ever heard this? The Chinese character for a big boat is literally, because the characters, you've seen them, but you don't know what they mean. They're actually small, sometimes smaller words are put together, so they'll make this symbol. And the symbol for a big boat is a boat with 8 people on it. Pretty neat, yeah. Noah's sons were? All right. True or false? Noah was instructed as to which animals were to be taken on the ark. Yeah, true. You have the unclean animals and the clean animals, and you have to take different amounts of different ones. We often don't talk about that, do we? Often just say 2 of every kind. Well, 2 of every kind of unclean animals and clean animals, but then they had to bring extra of the clean animals. Why? Yeah, gotta be able to eat. Yeah.
Kids think you're fibbing to them when you mention the 7.
Oh yeah. No, I've heard it. No, 2. It was 2. Miss Diane, you're wrong. Yeah. Yeah. The rain continued for 40 nights, right? The earth was completely covered, and the water was 15 cubits above dry land. Noah's on the ark for how many days? Yeah, a little over, actually. 300, I think it's 370.
That's lunar calendar.
Oh, is it?
Our calendar is 375.
All right, 375, said Philip. Yeah.
I can use that today, lunar calendar.
Lunar calendar, okay. All right, then. I'm going to have to go look some up because that's news to me. All right. Ark landed on mountains of Ararat, and the sign given was rainbow. Man, we took a long time to go over that, but we had some fun. All right, I'm going to kind of breeze through this because we just want to make sure we get through it. The tower to heaven, of course, in Genesis 11 is the Tower of what? Babel. I've heard people say Babel, but I don't like that one. They were babbling after that, so I'm going to go with Babel. You didn't get that? You didn't get any new papers? Brian Mills.
I had them all out there.
Brian Mills. You're fired. All right. Man of patience is, of course, who? Down here. Job. All right. The 3 Hebrew fathers. That's Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God's promise. This is a big one. You need to look at this verse, have it in your memory. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. Now, I was talking to the teenagers. I put a real extra emphasis here on obedience, because that's the big thing today. We've had to talk about that a lot lately. The religious world says, you don't have to obey. You don't have to obey. Just believe in God and that's it. But why was Abraham taken care of, and why is everybody else taken care of because of Abraham's faithfulness? It's because he was obedient, right? And that is why he's called the father of the faithful. That's Abraham. Abraham's first home. Where's that? Ur of the Chaldees. Oh, yeah, that's cool. So I've got pictures of it from a friend of mine who's been there. So, yeah, you should bring your pictures. Be able to see it. Did you get to go inside? You did? They were allowing people inside when my friend was there, but they weren't allowed to take pictures. Were you allowed to take pictures inside?
Inside the house, really not much.
Yeah.
It was 6 feet up.
Yeah. Right. Yep. Oh, yeah, that's cool. So, yeah, you need to bring those. Abraham's wife, Sarah. And then This one trips people up. Abraham's two oldest sons, Ishmael and Isaac. Who's the son of the promise? Isaac, right? Yeah. Yes, and they're also very corrupt over the years. Yep. Matter of fact, I believe it's the Muslims who try to trace back their heritage to Ishmael. So, yeah. All right, we'll go over the questions for that next time. Thank you.